Today we're finally getting a chance to drive the 2025 Ram RHO. This has the 3-liter Hurricane Inline 6, and it replaces the Hemi V8, supercharged V8, from the TRX. It costs a little bit less. Starting price on this is just shy of 70 grand, though most of the RHOs that I've seen online are $80,000, $90,000, and this one is about there too. It's not cheap. I actually don't have a Monroney on this specific truck, but I assume it has all the options, which would probably put it around 90 grand. It has a 3-liter inline 6 that makes 540 horsepower, 521 pound-feet of torque. That's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. I've spent all week in this. Let's talk about what it's been like to live with. We'll take it for a drive and give you guys some driving impressions. Let's start it up. So the 3-liter inline 6 definitely has a distinct personality here, unlike in the Rebel X and the Ram 1500s that we've driven in the past. The inline 6 was just smooth, quiet. You couldn't really hear anything. And to be honest, I did miss the V8 in those trucks. This almost sounds like a BMW engine or something. It feels very European sports sedan, which is just a strange thing. There's kind of a weird disconnect between the way the engine sounds and feels and what you know that you're driving and what you're in. We'll give you guys some driving impressions on the inline 6 once we get on the road, because it's actually quite a good engine and it sounds nice with the exhaust treatment that they've done here. Let's look at the outside of this Ram RHO. Pretty unchanged, honestly, compared to the TRX. I absolutely love these wheels. These might be my favorite wheels ever on a truck. They just look so good. They're optional, kind of factory beadlock style, but the concavity to them, the offset. These are 35-inch Wrangler Duratrack Territory AT tires. Essentially a mud terrain. Really good off-road traction. A little bit noisy on the street, but not too bad. Bilstein dampers, active dampers. It's going to tow a little over 8,300 pounds. It weighs about 6,300 pounds. So it is not light. And I guess depending on what options you spec, it's slightly less expensive than the TRX used to be. Part of that is the fact that they don't have to meet compliance to have a big thirsty V8 in there, and it supposedly gets better fuel economy. I know this week I've been almost hypermiling it and averaging about 14 miles to the gallon, which is pretty respectable considering what this thing is, how big it is. Average EPA is about 15 mpg. The TRX used to just, you'd be lucky if you got into double digits in that. About a little over 6.5 foot bed, nice and wide, factory bed liner, spring bed liner looks fantastic. I like the configurable tie down points here. Bed cover looks nice. 115 volt, 400 watt AC outlets back there. You guys have seen the back of a truck bed, you know what it looks like. Tailgate opens and closes automatically. Closes really fast. You've got a button on the key fob to do that as well. Big honking rear recovery points, big exhaust, full size 35-inch spare tire, some protection around it. And then you've got your bed step. There we go. Suspension. 11.8 inches of ground clearance here. A lot of suspension travel. A little bit softer than the Ram TRX. Ram TRX I found to be pretty bouncy, if I'm being honest. This is an improvement. More recovery points up front. 3 lights in the intake here. This is 88 inches wide, so yeah, it needs them. This is a big, big beast. This and the Raptor, these are kind of the hardest trucks to drive on the street just because they are so wide. There's not a lot of steering angle here. Maneuvering this thing around, going into parking spaces, tight city environments, I'll be honest, this week, it's been a bit of a struggle. Let's take a look under the hood. That is a functional Ram airflow piece right there. There we go. Well, it looks like a K&N air filter. Nice. Yeah, with room for a supercharged V8 someday, hopefully. Love the stance on this. Can't get over the wide fenders, the huge tires, and these just gorgeous looking wheels. Even the RHO logo on the side looks pretty badass. Taillights are nice. Nice access point here for all your trailer wiring connections. More lights underneath there. Tons of space in the back too. Look how big these doors are. They open 90 degrees pretty much. We do have a rock slider here. Feels like it's metal right here and then plastic for the step. Is it body mounted? I assume it's just frame mounted. Yep, looks like it. Huge drive shaft. Jeez. So kind of a tiny step to get up into the truck with. You got to be careful. Honestly, I haven't really even been using it as a step. Loads of space in the back seats. Plug outlet back there. Heated and ventilated seats. Nice. And then it says right here, Ram RHO, designed by Stellantis in Auburn Hills, Michigan. Look at that, 540 horsepower, 28 PSI of boost. You guys know how we feel about the Ram 1500 interiors. They are just some of the highest quality in the segment. This is no different, feels even more upscale. A little bit of carbon fiber, a little bit of suede here. It all looks and feels really nice. I like the blacked out Ram logo too. Seats are fantastic, really comfortable, nice bolstering. And there's a relatively decent mix of physical controls and constant screen icons here with this infotainment. Let's hop up front and talk a little bit more about this interior. It is a head turner. Really beefy suspension components, lots of skid plating underneath. Metal fuel tank skid with a bit of separation there. Headlight controls over here to the left. Pedal height adjustment. Love that. And the Harman Kardon sound system absolutely bumps. I like that we get grab handles for all passengers, even in the rear. Driving position. Good amount of adjustment here. Wheel tilts and telescopes quite a bit. You get 2 seat memory settings. Drive modes here. There's a lot going on. So we have an auto mode, a custom mode, mud, sand, rock, Baja, sport, tow, snow, and we'll just leave this in auto. I've kind of made my custom mode a sport mode minus sport steering this week. So if you press this button, that'll bring up your drive modes, and you can see what all is customized here. Screen has been a little bit laggy this week. Wouldn't mind slightly better response out of this. You can customize your home screen to show whatever you want. Climate, music, gauges. CarPlay connectivity has worked well this week. That's pretty responsive. I like with this vertical tablet you get all your apps in one screen. You've got a climate menu, though you don't really need it because you've got pretty much all your climate controls over here on the sides, which I do appreciate. 4 aux ports right here, tons of USB ports, an aux cable connection, HDMI port for what I assume is the passenger entertainment screen, which you can only see on the passenger side. We've shown that to you before in previous Ram videos. Shifter, just a regular old shifter right here. Put into sport mode. You can downshift by pressing forward, upshift by pressing backward, just like you do in a race car, which is what we want. Stellantis knows how to do it correctly. Let's see. Really, the only complaint that I have with this interior is that there is no quick access button handy, physical, for the surround forward cameras. And you need to use them a lot. And also, these cameras are so tiny. We have this huge screen, and most of it is just filled up with fake buttons that you don't really need. These could be so much smaller, and we could have such better use of the real estate here. My Ranger Raptor screen fills everything with the view monitors. I don't understand what Ram is doing here. This is one of the tiniest 360 cameras and reverse cameras I've seen in any modern car, and you absolutely need them to drive this thing around in tighter environments, because once you're pulling up to a parking space, you don't even know what's in front of you. That hood is so high. Anyway, you can make this a quick access control. So let's say if you're in CarPlay, you go into vehicle, hit surround camera. It's usually a couple presses, and it takes a minute to pop up. Wouldn't mind that being a little bit faster, and to have a physical button for it somewhere would be really nice around here. Who knows? Maybe even on the steering wheel, because I use it a lot. We get a digital rear view mirror. Rear window that opens. Huge visors with tons of coverage. They slide too. Look at that. You can almost block your whole forward-facing view with these visors. They're enormous. Paddle shifters up here and down here with room for buttons in between for your volume, track selection controls, etc. Engine start-stop button is right there. And we also get auto stop-start, which is pretty quick and seamless to use. Launch controls right here. Four-wheel drive auto, four-wheel drive high, low, and then axle lock. And of course that integrates well with the off-road modes. All the screens are high resolution, nice and bright. You've got a couple different options here for your center display. You can see tire pressure, fuel economy. See, I've averaged about 13.5 miles to the gallon this week. Music, all that stuff. Head-up display controls. And then you've got a couple sliders over here to the left to control your button brightness, and then what I assume is your screen brightness once our ambient light gets a little bit darker. So we'll see how that plays out as the sun sets here. You can also turn off your tablet display just by pressing that button once. Brakes feel good. Nice firm pedal, nice and strong. Savage geese. This 3-liter inline-6 is really responsive. The 8-speed just snaps off upshifts. Tends to hold revs a little bit higher than I would expect to. Even auto mode feels a little bit like a sport mode sometimes. It's not always too eager to upshift to the highest gear for fuel economy. Flat around a corner. A lot of grip from these 325 wide tires. Power feels awesome. No complaints there. And we have active driving assist with hands-free driving. This is a great system. It works really well. I've been using it all week. It doesn't let you take your eyes off the road for very long, and I'm not sure how it's going to work with a camera on my head, but we'll find out here shortly. It'll auto lane change with turn signal indication. And once it finds its line, it'll just take over and do its thing. The steering wheel is sensitive to touch, which is great. All right, we're in hands-free mode right now with the green lights. You can also go here, get a little bit better of a view, or it'll show you in the head-up display what's going on. The only thing I've found with this system this week, the only complaint I can come up with it, is that it seems to hug the left line a little bit too much, And that's a problem when you're on a 2-lane road and you got oncoming traffic. It freaks me out a little bit. I wish it were centered a little bit better. Most of the time it's okay, but every now and then I look at my rearview mirror and I see it just kind of creeping over the line a little bit, then it'll correct. But hands-free pretty much means hands-free unless if it gets confused, and then it'll beep at you and you can take over very quickly. It will not let you take your eyes off the road for very long at all, only a few seconds. And if you do it repeatedly, it'll yell at you. So if you need to go over here, change something in the infotainment, go into a deeper menu, you're gonna have to do it in sections, in kind of partitions of time. So you gotta pay attention and look straight ahead. All right, you can cancel everything. Love the button layout here. Everything works great. Lots of physical controls. Let's go into custom mode, which is almost sport mode. Suspension will stiffen up. Gauge cluster will change for a minute and then it'll change back. That's kind of weird. Still quiet, but just this kind of unshakable feeling that this engine has European character to it. Let's open that back window. See if we can hear it a little bit better. Yeah, I don't know. Put our transmission into sport mode here. Or is this manual? This might be manual. I don't know if this will upshift for me. Let's find out. Yeah, that's a manual mode for sure. I like the shift lights. Power feels fantastic, honestly. We're almost down a couple hundred horsepower from supercharged Hemi V8, but with a little bit less weight. I guess maybe it's not as fast, but it still feels pretty darn good to me. Downshifts are super quick. The 8-speed auto here feels fantastic. If I had one major complaint about this truck, it's that you can only drive it in 4-wheel drive. You can't put it in 2-wheel drive and slide it around a bunch in the dunes. It's 4-wheel drive auto only. I'm sure you're going to have a great time in 4-wheel drive auto, but it would be nice to put this in 2-wheel drive and have a bit of fun. All right, so supposedly 0 to 60 here happens in under 5 seconds. Let's do a quick launch and put that to the test. Launch control there. Really dragging shifts between gears. It's quick. It's no slouch. We'll have to do that again. Steering is hefty. And I really want these gauges to dim down a little bit. What's going on here? There we go. All right. So once the ambient lighting gets a little bit darker, you can kind of go into night mode with your gauges. I love that. Every vehicle these days needs a physical control, a slider, something, to dim all the screens inside. Can we make this turn? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's go and find our camera, our surround camera. I think we're gonna make it. Can't see a damn thing in front of me, but the screens show me what I need to see. Look at that, they stay up. we're still in sport mode. Jeez, for a 6,300 pound truck, this thing is properly quick, even with only 540 horsepower. This gearbox is so much better than Ford's 10-speed. All right, let's try another launch. I'm not going to engage launch control this time. We're just going to kind of brake boost it from a stop. Traction control is off. That's quick. It's so linear and so smooth that maybe it doesn't feel as fast as it is, and then you look down and there's 60 miles an hour within no time. Honestly, that's probably my favorite thing about this truck, is just how smooth and refined this powertrain is. Yeah, we all miss the Hemi V8. But for now, this is all we've got. Gotta kind of manhandle this thing around corners. The steering wheel is so big, and the steering ratio is still, you know, it's a truck. Great paddle shifters. Metal. Nice feel to them. And we'll leave it in sport mode. We'll hit this entrance ramp, see what it does around the corner. We'll get the next one. Faint tire noise from these Duratracks. This has always been a louder tire, but I've got to say, the off-road performance is really good. Supposedly they handle well in the snow. We had a Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, a previous gen with Duratracks on it, and it did not do well in the snow at all. Not sure how this will do. I'm sure it'll be fine. But it is a very nice all-terrain off-road. And on-road, honestly, the manners here are fine. There's so much sound insulation in this cabin. It's kind of all matched with wind noise, tire noise, slight vibration through kind of the body and chassis, but that's just kind of what you get on 35-inch tires that are 12.5 inches wide and on big wheels and lifted suspension. That's just what happens. This definitely isn't as smooth of a highway driving experience as like the Rebel X or, you know, a regular Ram 1500 on basically highway tires. I wonder if we can get a lane change out of it. Alright, that time I held the turn signal and it did it, but usually all I have to do is just give it a tap. Of course, as soon as I go over, traffic's going to want to pass me. Terrible lane etiquette right here, but trying to show you guys how this thing auto lane changes. All right, let's try that again. Hold on. All right, that time it worked. So usually you just tap the turn signal. It'll signal about 7 or 8 times as it changes lanes. It happens all kind of slowly. It's not as quick and snappy as something like a BMW X7 or something, but it's a good system. It works really well. $80 miles an hour, still not too noisy. You'll probably average about 11 miles to the gallon at this speed. All right, let's go into sport mode again and see what it does around an entrance ramp. Hopefully no cars in the way. A little bit of dive, under braking, turning in. Reasonably sharp, honestly, for what this thing is. Mechanical grip is what it is. Pretty flat around a corner. A little bit of stability control intervention there as we hit some bumps on throttle, but yeah, this thing is fun. It pulls. It's a good street truck. It is more comfortable than the TRX was. The damping just seems a little bit better sorted here. Headlight performance seems to be pretty good here too at night. The suspension definitely isn't as comfortable as the Raptor. It just isn't even close. It's not as soft. It doesn't have that same refinement. It's a little bit bouncier still. I'm sure it's great off-road, but still it's not that same level of sweetness as the Fox live valve shocks, even in my Ranger Raptor. One compression and done. This seems to kind of bounce around a little bit more. The engine is really quiet. I wouldn't mind just a little bit more volume out of this. Maybe an exhaust valve. Overall, this is a great truck. Drives awesome. It's still expensive, though maybe not as expensive as what it replaces. It's kind of rare for a new model to come out and be actually slightly less expensive than the model it's replacing, but I can understand it in this case because it's not the Hemi V8 anymore. That said, we may see a supercharged V8 back in a Ram RHO or another TRX at some point soon. We'll see. Emissions laws, everything's kind of up in the air right now. We don't know what's going to happen. Until then, though, I really enjoyed this. I think it's going to be awesome off-road. It drives great on-road. It's super refined, really nice to live with. If you want to save a little bit of money compared to a Raptor R, this might fit the bill. This is about the same price as a EcoBoost Raptor, which we have not driven in this latest generation. Ford just keeps giving us Raptor Rs, which I'm not going to complain about. They're fantastic. But I think we're getting a regular Raptor in at some point soon. Regular Raptor, EcoBoost V6, similar power, a little bit more comfortable, a little bit softer suspension. Gearbox is better here. I think in some ways I prefer this drivetrain to the EcoBoost setup, especially the gearbox. But I prefer the comfort and the suspension in the Raptor. The Raptor's probably a little bit more fuel efficient. There's stop-start for you. Those are some first thoughts on the Ram RHO. Good truck. Thanks for watching, guys. That's going to be a wrap for this video. We'll see you in the next one. What a behemoth. It's just so big. I don't know if I could live with a truck this large. Maybe if you lived out in the country, if you had space, room to drive this thing at higher speeds, but it's just massive. And it needs just a bit more personality from the turbo M96. Yeah. is comfy. The seats are kind of hard, but they are bolstered in all the right places. Got some ambient lighting here. On a 2-lane road. Let's see how active driving assist works. We'll just hover over the wheel here, cover the wheel with our hands. Wouldn't mind physical buttons for heated seat and steering wheel either. That would be nice, instead of having to go on the screen. Really, if they just had physical controls for a quick access camera and a better view of that camera, and then heated ventilated seat buttons, steering wheel, heated steering wheel buttons, that I think I'd be really happy with this interior. But just those things, which you use often, being in the screen, it just gets annoying. Not a deal breaker by any means, but it's just we need to have physical controls for some things, and I think those are some necessities. I feel like. It is a little bit difficult to cancel your steering assist here. You have to just kind of turn everything off and then turn it back on if you don't want it. Yeah, it's a bit weird. So once you engage steering assist, you have to kind of do it all again to go back into just adaptive cruise control. How much can we dim our gauges here? Oh yeah, that's pretty dark. Nice. Control for head-up display is separate. Alright, sport mode. Try this entrance ramp one more time, and then we'll leave the video there. That's pretty good. Almost flat out through there. Had to lift a little bit. Jeez, this is just it's a Baja luxury truck that drives and sounds like a sports car. I guess we'll end on that note, because that kind of sums it all up.